Hello, welcome back to the studio. I hope you guys had a great week. For years, I have not had a good way to store my collage. Because I've been an artist in other mediums before this, I thought that it would be similar to a sketchbook. So I was putting my pieces in between other pieces of paper in a sketchbook. I realized that I need an actual method of storing my finished collage work. Over the past few weeks and now into the next few weeks, I've been strategizing on how I want to store these papers. I wanted to find a safe way to store my collages that wasn't so temporary, and so I did a ton of research and I came up with some great options. So we're going to talk about those today. Unintentionally as well, this video is going to be able to show you my earlier works from 2020. I'm hoping to do 2021, 2022, and 2023 and be able to store them correctly. Along the way, you will see the mistakes I've made, and yes, don't say they're not mistakes, they're definitely mistakes on how to store, how to glue, what materials to use for longevity of my artworks. So I feel like this is gonna also be a very reflective video talking about how you can do better as a collage artist. Things I would go back and change probably. I haven't looked at these pieces in a very long time, so I'm really excited to see what I used to make. Without further ado, let's store these collages properly. So these are the portfolios that I ended up buying. They're 14 by 17, which is quite large and definitely is going to fit only my largest pieces. I did this just so I could have more space, and they have a limited amount of pages already put in them like this. I also bought them because I couldn't find ones on Amazon that were archival safe, which means acid free, as we've talked about in other videos. And I just feel like these ones have like what I needed. And there's 24 sleeves, which means there's 48 spaces for each one. I bought 2 of them. I'm hoping to put my 20 and 2021 work in this one, and then in the other one, put my 2022, 2023 work. And this is just quite an upgrade from what I'm using right now. So right now I'm literally just using notebooks and like shoving them into the pages. These are archival quality papers, so that's all good. I'm glad that I switched over at the right time. But you can see that when I first started, I was gluing them right onto the papers. They're not really well done either, so I definitely want to go back and redo that. And I have like a bunch that like are just like literally floating around. They don't have any backings, really. Like, see, it's like sticking off. It's not well done. This is just like literally like from 2020. So this is when I was first doing art shows. And yeah, they're not put together well. So I'm literally like slapping my business card on the back of it versus like actually like inputting it correctly. So yeah, I really wanted to go through this and back them properly with paper, and then put like the right name and everything on the back of them, and then put them in here in the right order or as close to them as I can. It's a little bit difficult because I've done so many shows. I end up pulling out the pieces, and so they're not exactly in the same order. Like for example, this one, I'm not even sure if it was done in 2020. I'm pretty sure it was done in 2021. I think my idea is that I'm just gonna put a backing on them, not make it any bigger than it is, and then if I ever want to stick it on another paper, I can just get a larger sized paper to stick it to. A lot of these from 2020 are fully stuck down. That's how I worked. I just did it all in one go, and some of them are not, and that's unfortunate because some of the papers have like little blemishes on them, so I'm going to take an eraser and try to get rid of those. And I also worked in really weird shapes, which I think is something that I've grown from. I'm kind of excited that I get to show you guys my early works in vintage magazine style. I think they're kind of fun. You can definitely see I have a slightly different style, and I wasn't really exactly sure on what I was doing. Still, when I'm using kind of contemporary fashion magazines mixed in. This one is one that's still selling to this day. It's not very well done though. You can see I was using bad glue for it. You can see like the paper is not well done. So I've never sold this one. I also just like attached it to my wall, so it has like a duct tape mark on the back. So this is, I'm glad to do this because I think I'm showing how much I've grown as an artist. It definitely, ugh. You can literally see I put some tape on this with a printer paper, but you can see like from the yellow tape, like all this yellowing, like that should not be happening, and that means that this tape has acid in it, and that's something that you should look for and why it's important to preserve your pieces. I've always loved this piece, but yeah, look at this. I literally put like a piece of construction paper to give it some back, and then this is construction paper here. So I literally just used to like attach them together, and like this is not straight by any means. So those are things that I've definitely improved on. Although this isn't the first one at the front of the book, I know that this is the first one I did, so I'm going to start with this one for putting it into the portfolio. I know that there's going to be wrinkles because this is before I was using proper glue, so you can see like it's not, yeah, fully stuck on before I started using a roller. So I just want to make sure that it goes on really, really smoothly to like a thicker piece of paper. And then I'm going to name them, label them, sign them, stamp them, and put them in the portfolio book. Okay, so we're all set up here, so let me talk about what we're set up with. So this is just a board. I wanted to protect my cutting mat just because it's really annoying when it gets sticky, and I've done that in the past and that was definitely a mistake, so I don't want to make that again. I have a brand new piece of paper that we just took the edges off of. We have our first piece, and then this, because I don't have like plastic plates, this is just cling wrap over top of an old painting that I started and never finished. I'm hoping to finish it maybe this week. And then I'm going to work with matte medium. We're going to put a very small amount of matte medium on the paper, and this isn't a technique that I've never tried, but I actually want to try to do it with a sponge so that it's very thin and evenly distributed. And then we're going to take the speed roller and go over all that, and I'm going to see if this method works, and if it does and it is working really well, then this is how I plan to do all of these pieces. So that's about as thin of a layer as you can get. And then the issue with this one, as I said, is that I didn't use good glue sticks back then. So you can see that this is coming up. So I'm just going to take a little paintbrush and just go into the deepest part I can and then back up around the edges. Look, this is why I use good glue sticks. I can literally just pull this off if I wanted to. But I mean, these ones are not ones that are for sale, right? These are ones that I just want to preserve for my own sake because I think it's important to keep your old work. Sorry, the sun's coming through right now, but see how this isn't completely dry yet? So we're just gonna put it over to the side, let it dry, and move on to the next one while we wait. I'm trying to go as chronologically as possible, and this is the next one that I remember doing for sure. So this one had tape sticking out, so I've just cut that off so that we don't have to worry about it sticking out, and I'm definitely not gonna be pulling this off because I just worry that the paper is gonna rip because one, it's vintage, two, it's had a rough go. I don't know why I used to do things like this, but that's just how it is. And here again, you can see like just the full edges are coming off, everything's coming off, but I glued this really well at the time, and it's only been like almost, I guess, 4 years now. So that's kind of something to definitely keep in mind. If this isn't convincing you to go get a good quality glue, I don't know what will. If you're liking my 2020 works, I know you're gonna like my 2023 works because I've come a long way. If you wanna check them out, you can go to flanzella.com and check them out for yourself. And then we have ones like this that are already all glued down. I mean, as you can see, again, it's coming off, but it's important to just, you know, keep it on this board. I don't know how I could fix this because I didn't do like a rough edge in these and stuff. Like I could cut it out technically, but I'm not going to. I mean, again, this is like my very early work. It's funny seeing this one too because I'm just like not as calculated. You can see that there's like space in between this, so I didn't like see if I needed to keep a little bit more on this one. I do think this one's pretty funny. I could see it on like a t-shirt or something. I still really like this piece. I think it's interesting. It's got like, you know, the legs of the bull and then these other legs of someone dancing, and then it says fast fashion, and then the background feels like it's like moving like a blur. And then it says, and an upside down look at the brain. I think that's kind of fun. And I remember wanting it to be sideways so that people will look sideways and they contribute to the movement. It's kind of fun. This one is one of the only ones in the book that's glued down that isn't like completely coming off. Like you can see there's a little bit at the edge, but that's it. So I must have used a different type of glue. Maybe I switched over to this for this one. You can't see like the glue through the back either. It's interesting to see. Maybe I was getting better. I know what you're thinking looking at this piece, and yes, I agree. It is super crazy and pretty fun. I remember this was the first day that I got my cutting board that cuts like the strips, and so I was just testing out different techniques and patterns. So you can see the strips here, and then I think I came across this article with these vintage eyes and I really liked them. And this is still when I had a lot of magazines from like the 2010s and 2000s. So I used them here a little bit as well just to add it, and then I saw this art in your eye. So I don't hate this one. I think it's just kind of like very colorful and very bright, but I think it's kind of fun. Now for one that I feel like I'm not very proud of. These are perfect for that 9x12 paper. This one I wanted to test out construction paper behind it. I don't necessarily hate this piece because I like that I was experimenting with different things. Like I love this neon yellow with the contrast of black. So I think that that's pretty cool, and I was still using like a bunch of text, and I think this image is interesting, and I cut it out in an interesting way. The one thing though is that I just don't love it. It's just like one of those things that I don't like it, but as I've said before, it's important to share your art. The one thing I do wonder while looking at this though is like if I ripped this a little bit, I think it would be really cool. So I'm gonna do that. Ooh, it's kind of fun, right? Gives a little bit more edge. Don't know if this one's gonna like that. I think that breaks it up a little bit. It's like this on that side. I like the hard edge. See, this one, for whatever reason, has like no bubbles at all, and I'm not sure if that's just because I just did that right now. Some of the other ones were already like crackled and stuff. They didn't have like water damage, but this one looks perfect. Now that I've done a couple pieces with the medium and sponge, I'm actually not liking it. I do not prefer that. So I was just doing this for the corners, but I think I'm gonna switch back to just doing the glue stick, and it's gonna take up a lot of glue stick. It's kind of ridiculous to do, but I'm liking the finish. I think some people would do something with a spray. Like I definitely could switch over to something like this, but I just really don't want to do it inside right now. I don't want my place smelling, and also it's toxic for inside. So I just don't want to do it like at that level of how much I'm going to be using it. In 2020, I did this series where I wanted to talk about like deteriorating memories, and this is one of the pieces from that. So it's just supposed to be like some sort of like a man's internal brain and some memories that he might have had and how they're blurry and kind of mixed up together. And there's this guy that looks like he's in like disrepair. Yeah, so it's just like an interesting piece. I like it. I think it's interesting, and I like how the white rips are really powerful. I feel like this just like, it brings the energy that it is about. I do think this one's funny. I just wonder if I can use these pieces for something bigger. Like I love it may not be much, but it's all we've got. I would love to put this maybe in my digital download even, because you could have like anything here, right? Like you could cover up the world. We could even take out this text so that that's not there. And then what is it that people are gonna put in there, I think would be a really fun challenge. So interesting, but this one seems to be the first one on like a multimedia paper, but still I did do the tape and I taped it to the wall. When I was in my old studio, I just taped all my artworks to the wall and made like a big collage. I do like this one though. It has like the cabbage in the background and then all these fish, and I think I would call it like Anne of Green Aquarium or something silly. But yeah, it's just kind of silly. I don't like the drawing. I think I was just experimenting, and I don't know. It's okay. Ooh, I remember this piece. I feel like this was my first abstract E1. I remember seeing the edge and being like, this could use something really cool. And I have like fish in here and these greens and triangles, the world and its people. I don't know, it's just kind of, it's nice. I kind of like it. As for this one, I've just decided to put it in my pile next to my desk. I think that I want to work on it and I could see it being something really funny. This piece is rather big as well, so it would need to be part of like a larger piece. And it's really well cut out, like the tail is perfect, so I definitely want to be able to do something with this. And I think it's pretty funny, and I think people would love a dog piece. This one's pretty silly, but this one goes out to the parents. I think it's pretty funny. Wow, well that one was tricky. Oh my goodness, what a crazy piece. And voila, that one is all glued down. That was quite the trick, but it's all done, and I really like this one. I think it's kind of cool. It's very like fashion forward. I'm really liking how it like wraps around the seat and grows all the way up here and is behind her and in front of her, and she looks like she's pushing the swing and everything. I think it's like a pretty interesting piece. You can see just how crooked this one was. This is before I had any like cutting or whatever, so I used literally scissors to cut everything out. And I mean, these are pretty square, but this one is just completely not. So I'm going to let this dry and then have to like cut up to here probably. This one is on printer paper, and it definitely had like a tape mark, and I ripped it off and it broke. I'm just gonna leave it as is, and at least it has like a backing. So now that they're dry, I'm just gonna cut off a little bit of this paper just so I can fit them in better. Then I just want to take the pieces and write a little bit about it on the back. So for example, this one is the first one I ever made using vintage magazines. So I'm gonna write like my first one ever, 2020, and then go on from there. I've been trying to go through and name each piece. This one I just don't really know what to call it, so if you have a name, put it down below. Otherwise, I'm just gonna leave it blank for now till I can sign it. Okay, now we're bringing this back. Let's back that up. And I'm gonna start placing the pieces in here and try to do them as chronologically as I possibly can. Well, one thing is for certain, and that is that I was still a pretty pristine cutter back then. I'm pretty proud of those collages. Having put the 2020 works in that binder, I think that I could definitely have scaled down to a smaller size for 2020, probably 2021, just so that they're smaller and everything will fit, because that's kind of before I was exploring a larger size, bigger than like 11 by 14. I guess I didn't realize that I hadn't scaled up at that time when I bought these binders, so I'm definitely gonna look into doing that and just re-putting them into a smaller one. The thing I also really like about these binders is that I could picture me bringing them to an art show. Maybe if they were at the show, they could be like, oh, have you ever done anything like this? Or if they want to commission, I could show them more artworks and maybe they could get a better idea of what they want. And I could see me like taking the artwork, putting a mat around it, and then being able to ship it to their house and making the sale that day anyways. So I think that this is actually going to be a really good thing for my business as well. I'm really liking these binders. The one thing I'll say is that the film is super thin and it's a little bit difficult to work with. I bent it in one spot and that bend is not coming out now. You can kind of see where it is. So they're very fragile. So I think like I would recommend these ones, but I would just make sure that if you're buying them that you're going to make sure that you're like putting them in very delicately in the right way. I was being a little too aggressive with them. Really hope that this inspired you to store your collage material in a better way. For me, this is one step in the right direction and I'm really happy with it. I'm definitely going to be storing the rest of them over the next couple of weeks, so I'm excited to see that at the end. If you have any questions, please comment them down below. Happy to answer them as always. And this is my note, there's a lot of you watching my channel consistently, but not subscribing. So do the thing, just subscribe right now. You might as well, you're gonna watch it anyways. So I hope that you liked this and I'll see you next week. Bye guys.